I know it was a lot of rumors about the next level, and I can't see that.
Yeah.
I can't see the next level. And I think a couple people who may have taken shots at my kids, they were afraid that I would go. That's where the shots came from. All you got to do is just sit back and listen. People don't want to do that. They want to create these narratives and create these stories and then attach them to a kid that ain't never done nothing wrong.
You a dog, your kid's a dog, and dogs gonna always rise to the top. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. You know what I mean?
It did hurt. The Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. So it was some foolish stuff that went on, but you know what? That gave them something that they needed.
Deion Sanders has finally broken his silence on the controversy surrounding his son, star quarterback Shedeur Sanders, and he's not holding back. In a passionate statement, Coach Prime called out the critics, saying they attacked Shedeur not because of anything he did, but simply because he's Deion's son. According to him, Shedeur has done everything right, but the hate keeps coming from those who never gave him a fair shot. Deion says this isn't about football anymore. It's personal, and it's wrong. So what's really going on behind the scenes? And why are some people so determined to tear Shedeur down? Let's break it all down.
That made them fall, but Shedeur and his family, they overplayed their hand. Them thinking that he was in the same evaluation mode as Eli Manning, they didn't play that right. Them trying to narrow the teams that he was going to go to, that didn't do right. Not working out at the combine, that wasn't the right thing.
Shedeur Sanders ended up as the third-string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, a move that shocked fans and raised eyebrows across the league. For a player of his caliber, with the numbers and poise he showed in college, this placement felt like more than just a football decision. Some voices in the NFL are whispering that his family's influence, the bold stances, the high expectations, and yes, the Deion Sanders name, may have actually worked against him during evaluations and draft day decisions, but even that doesn't fully explain it. There's a sense among insiders that something deeper is going on, that this isn't just about strategy or fit, but something more calculated.
Shedeur Sanders didn't get drafted. There's multiple reports. A little cocky, whatevs.
Reports began surfacing that painted Shedeur Sanders as cocky, a player who refused to lower. His ego, no matter the situation, whether it was fair or not, that narrative stuck. Critics jumped on it and the media followed. Even prominent voices like Colin Coward labeled Shedeur and his family as egoistic for being too selective about where he should go. What started as speculation quickly turned into a full-blown agenda. Headlines focused more on attitude than ability. Franchises grew cautious, and that perception, more than performance, played a major role in why Shedeur wasn't picked earlier in the draft. At the height of the controversy, Colin Coward didn't hold back. He openly mocked Deion Sanders, claiming that he had made too much of his son. In Cowherd's eyes, Deion hadn't taught Shedeur humility. Instead, he accused him of cashing in on his son's spotlight. It was a harsh take, one that ignored Shedeur's undeniable skill and rising status as a quarterback. Cowherd overlooked the work, the stats, and the leadership, choosing instead to focus on family dynamics and media image.
Okay, let's get to the Shedeur Sanders thing. So, let me tell you something. It's never a bad message to tell your kids, be humble. Humility works in the summer. It works in the fall. Humility works in the spring. Humility works in the winter. Don't gas your kids up too much. It didn't really bother me when they retired Shedeur Sanders' number.
What's ironic is that the same analysts who criticized Shedeur back then may soon be the ones praising his game, because talent like his doesn't stay quiet for long. Colin Cowherd wasn't the only one firing shots at Shedeur. The criticism came from multiple directions, and it all played a part in his surprising fall in the draft. One of the most talked about moments came during a segment with Stephen A. Smith, where former NFL quarterback Cam Newton weighed in. Cam claimed that Shedeur doesn't want to be challenged, suggesting that he's so self-absorbed he doesn't believe anyone in the draft class is better than him. It was a bold accusation and one that added fuel to the media storm already brewing around Shedeur. Instead of focusing on his game, the narrative shifted to his mindset, and in the eyes of scouts and franchises, that narrative stuck. Cam Newton didn't stop at questioning Shedeur's mindset. He went further. casting doubt on Shedeur's actual performances. He claimed that Shedeur had played in convenient positions, implying that his success was more a product of comfort and favorable circumstances than real talent or grit. In Cam's eyes, that made Shedeur less impressive, someone who hadn't truly been tested at the highest level and therefore didn't deserve the hype. It was a sharp dismissal of a quarterback who had consistently delivered on the field. And coming from a former NFL MVP, those words carried weight, especially with teams already hesitant.
I mean, listen, I'm not refuting what you're saying. I'm trying to comprehend what you're saying. What do you mean he doesn't want to be challenged?
That got my attention too.
So I'm asking. You on first take. You damn right I'm asking you.
There's been history there. And I've always challenged Shedeur publicly and to him in ways that, like, bro, I want to see the best version of Shedeur.
But despite all the trash talk, the doubts, and the public shots fired at them, neither Shedeur nor Deion Sanders responded. They chose silence. Not out of fear, but with purpose. Their plan was simple: let Shedeur's performance do the talking, and it did. As the praises started rolling in and the same critics began to change their tone, Deion finally broke his silence. But this time, he wasn't just defending, he was calling people out. Deion questioned the intent behind the smear campaign. He asked how anyone could look at Shedeur's relentless work ethic, leadership, and production and still claim he wasn't prepared. He made it clear Shedeur did everything right. He trained, he studied, he delivered, and yet they tried to belittle him, not because of what he lacked, but because of who he was. Now, with the spotlight turning back in their favor, Deion's message is louder than ever. You can doubt the name, but you can't deny the game.
He's been in front of the camera, so they know how to navigate, they know how to handle themselves.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna catch them in no foolery and no mess. You're not, when you sit up there and say something like, he went in a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Shedeur Sanders, who's had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and went up, leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, and you're gonna tell me he was
every situation.
You're gonna tell me he had on headphones?
Deion Sanders was right all along. The tables did turn. He knew the day would come when the same voices that tried to tear Shedeur down would have no choice but to acknowledge his greatness. And that moment is here. Colin Coward, one of Shedeur's loudest critics, has now done a complete 180. He's calling Shedeur Sanders one of the best quarterbacks on the Browns roster, even going as far as to say that Shedeur should be the first team quarterback, ahead of veteran Joe Flacco and rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That shift in narrative proves exactly what Deion had been saying from the start. The talent was always there. The problem was the perception. Now that the noise is fading and the results are speaking for themselves, even the harshest critics are being forced to admit what Deion and Shedeur knew all along.
But he is a 500 quarterback who couldn't get drafted in the first round. It's a little much. Everything is something, nothing is everything. Shedeur Sanders didn't get drafted. There's multiple reports. Cocky, whatevs. But I'm watching his draft room and the word legendary is all over the draft room. I'm like, can we just pull the temperature down a little? It's not the end of the world. If he had Caleb Williams' talent, nobody would, I guess, care. But the whole thing is like, bro, you wore New York Giant cleats. Remember when he wore the New York Giant cleats? Like, can we just... Humility's not... I know in society, everybody loves the TikTok watch thing. You know who doesn't apparently love it?
And now, as Shedeur's performances continue to silence the doubters, the myths about his off-the-field behavior are crumbling too. For months, critics painted him as arrogant, entitled, and difficult in the locker room. But that image couldn't be further from the truth. In a recent interview, Shedeur addressed it all head-on, calmly and confidently. He made it clear he was never the problematic guy. He spoke with humility, carried himself with respect, and let his actions speak louder than the noise. His words and gestures showed a different side, one the media never bothered to highlight. The same humility critics claimed he lacked is now evident in how he carries himself, both on and off the field. And now, a video is going viral that's shutting down the last of the false narratives. In the clip, Shedeur Sanders is seen talking to a teammate, and what he says caught everyone by surprise. He calmly states that if Joe Flacco, and a seasoned NFL veteran, ever asked him to clean his locker every time he left the training ground, he'd do it without hesitation. Why? Out of respect for Flacco Flacco being his senior. That one moment speaks volumes. It's not just about humility, it's about character. The same player who was labeled as arrogant is showing nothing but maturity, self-awareness, and team-first values. This isn't the Shedeur the critics talked about. This is the real Shedeur Sanders, and now the world is finally seeing it.
This is the thing. No. What? If Flacco told me to do this every day, I would do it. Because, bro, I real talk, chat, real talk. I go to him every day and I say, hey, bro, you good? You need anything?
But when you be like...
Right hand, because it's respect. You feel me? I feel that.
The narrative around Shedeur Sanders has completely flipped, and rightfully so. What began as a storm of doubt fueled by harsh media takes and unfounded criticisms has now become a wave of recognition and respect. Through it all, Shedeur stayed silent, letting his performance speak louder than any headline. And just when the world began to see the truth, Deion Sanders stepped in at the perfect time, not just to defend his son, but to expose those who tried to tear him down. Deion called out the voices that belittled Shedeur, questioned his character, and even influenced NFL teams to pass on him as a first pick. It wasn't just about football, it was personal, calculated, and unjust. But now the silence has ended, the truth is out, and the same critics are being forced to acknowledge what Deion and Shedeur knew all along. Real talent and character can't be denied, but now that Deion Sanders has finally broken his silence, after months of staying quiet while the media took shot after shot at his son, we want to hear from you. Did Coach Prime speak up at just the right time, now that Shedeur is proving himself on and off the field? Or should he have stepped in sooner to shut down the false narratives before they took hold? And let's talk about Shedeur. What's your honest take? Is he truly cocky and entitled like some made him out to be? Or was that image just a product of media spin and haters with an agenda? After seeing him speak with humility, lead with confidence, and even offer to clean Joe Flacco's locker out of respect, has your opinion changed? Was Shedeur misjudged from the start? We want to know what you think. So drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get the conversation started.